Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, that is my cue back here on Personal Pension Radio, episode number 160. 160. Absolutely cool to see 160 on there. I am still going on the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the feedback on iTunes and the emails with questions that end up in the show like they do today. Yes, I am the income engineer broadcasting from the Personal Pension Radio workshop here in Southern California. My goal, my plan, my hope is to deliver that retirement dream that Wall Street has been promising forever, but unfortunately they have been coming up short for the generations that are headed towards the exit line for retirement. I want to help you pull back that curtain on that mainstream financial advice so that you can ask the questions that are right for you. Somebody asked me recently, why don't you have a website? They were trying to find personalpensionradio.com. It hasn't happened for a while, and they found it says under construction. Well, here's the thing. Having a website is a real pain in the butt when you are a fully licensed and regulated financial planner professional, meaning it's just not worth it. My primary website that shows up more than anything else when people search for Kraig with a K, Strom, is my LinkedIn profile. So please find me on LinkedIn. That's the place to be. You can also find me on Facebook. You can find me on the Twitter. You can find me all over the place. But my primary focus is on the LinkedIn platform because that is a part of the approved places that I can actually be. Now, I want to jump right in and make sure that you know, ask great questions. Please ask great questions. And what I mean by that is this. This show is intended to motivate you, not necessarily to jump on the bandwagon and work with me. Of course, that's what I would really like. Hint, hint, disclosure. But it's really to encourage you to ask great questions. Prompt your financial advisor, your financial planner. If you're interviewing a financial planner like someone today that I'm going to talk about, ask questions. Dig deeper. Get behind the curtains because most advisors have been educated by the same Wall Street machine that taught me the messaging that works best for, big surprise, works best for Wall Street. So please, you've got to be prepared to ask questions. There should not be any question truly off limits. Now, somebody also asked me recently, hey, what kind of things can you help me with, Kraig? Well, just as a reminder, let me review some of the areas that I can help. And these are places that I love to work with folks. And if you have any questions about these or any other retirement type questions, you can always email me at Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com. Kraigstrom.com is the email domain, but kraigstrom.com, of course, goes to my LinkedIn page. Now, places that I can help, retirement income planning, of course, that's a big one for those who are headed towards retirement and even those who are already in retirement mode. I can help with retirement income planning, and often I can make a huge impact in going forward into maximum lifestyle income for retirement. I love to help people with questions about IRAs, individual retirement accounts, Roth IRAs, 401ks. I love the 401k conversation. I help people set up 401ks, IRA rollovers from old 401ks. That's a big one. I love investment account review, just simply reviewing and benchmarking current dusty old investment accounts that nobody's been paying attention to. I'm your guy. I also will review new and existing 401k options. I'm a big fan of life insurance, both term insurance and cash value insurance. I'm a huge fan and believe that it can play a great role in many people's lives. Disability insurance, paycheck insurance. If you've ever had a situation where a loved one or friend or someone has been injured and unable to work and you've watched them struggle financially, you've got to look at disability insurance to protect your paycheck. That and long-term care planning. So that's me. Those are the areas that I can help with. Now, quick disclosure, I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. I am certifiable as a financial planner professional. All that said, and as qualified as this show might make me sound, don't act on things that you hear on my show as if you're hearing advice for you personally. And please, dear goodness me, do not act on advice or anything you hear from financial entertainers like Dave Ramsey and other people who are not licensed. They're not regulated. They're not monitored on the things that they're saying. And they should not be your source for financial advice that is actionable. Meet with a qualified financial planner professional, please. And I would love that person to be me. A number of my listeners have contacted me through Kraig at kraigstrom.com or even on LinkedIn and Facebook. So please check that out. Now, this week, I have next week I have a very special deal of the week. Next week, I've got a special deal of the week. I'll share that with you next week because this week, I really just want to get into segment 1 and 2 with Watch Your Step. And I want to make sure to cover this and give it thoroughly. Next week, deal of the week, it's about a car. A pretty fancy schmancy car. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's still a cool deal of the week, and you don't have to love cars to appreciate the deal of the week. We'll get to that next week. Now, last week I talked about downsizing your real estate. Downsizing real estate, if that's part of your retirement plan, it may not work the way you think it's going to work. You've got to go back and listen to that and really study that. Millennials are not buying houses like previous generations. They're not. Downsizing is not the plan that it used to be. Now, this week, I want to thank a listener. Brian shared his experience with an investment portfolio review. He and his wife, Maria, are about to come into a significant amount of money from the sale of their home, and they wanted to get some help investing the proceeds. Now, Brian met with an advisor at a big name firm and shared his existing investment portfolio. Now, when I say big name firm, I'm just going to say it's big. It's very well known. This big name firm advisor disagreed with Brian on how best to allocate the account. He did not agree with the diversification mix that Brian was thinking about. Now, let's just set the stage for a quick second. I take notes and I follow my notes fairly close when I record my show, so because I don't want to get distracted. I am a man, after all. We are easily distracted. I have to say, first of all, a lot of investment advisors, they forget that Brian and Maria are the customer, and I agree that the customer is not always right. Now, that's a reality from the basic Walmart conversation at the front checkouts all the way through investment planning. I get it. And yet, in talking with Brian, it was almost right off the bat, very little consideration for Brian being the customer. And this firm advisor disagreed on how best to allocate the account. He didn't agree with the mix. Now, Brian, as I mentioned, is a listener of the show, and he contacted me because he knows that I'm happy to review and have conversations about investment portfolio review, such as that. And I looked at it, right? I disagreed with both Brian and the big name firm, kinda. No, listen to that. I disagreed with both of them, but kinda. I actually think that Brian was on track with his desired allocations. He just wasn't diversified correctly. You see, that's the key, that as I took some time to get to know Brian and listening to his allocations and listening to kind of what his ideas were, my thought was, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And yet, neither one, this big name firm advisor or Brian, were really truly diversified correctly. So when I reviewed the suggested portfolio from the big name firm and the current portfolio from the big name Brian, right? Neither one of them was actually diversified. They were correlated. That's a huge word, very important. Correlation in the investment world means that investments move up together, they move down together. A correlated portfolio, no matter how many investments you have in the portfolio, a correlated portfolio is really not diversified because they're always moving in the same direction, right? So my suggestion was that Brian and his wife should consider working with a financial planner that will seek true diversification through the use of uncorrelated investment options. Well, hint, hint. I mean, I would love to be that advisor, but as you're out there looking at your investment world, really pay close attention to this, that an uncorrelated investment option is not necessarily an investment option. You don't actually have to have investments to be part of a retirement income plan. You can actually have conservative asset classes that are uncorrelated that will blend into the overall plan. So, for example, stock market investments, for sure. How about real estate investments? How about life insurance assets? How about commodities? Right? How about more outside the box thinking? Remember that Wall Street does not often talk about things that make money, that take money out of Wall Street. Let me say that again. Wall Street does not always teach their advisors to teach clients how to take money out of Wall Street, right? That's why most portfolios from Wall Street advisory firms are all in Wall Street investments. Makes sense, right? I mean, Wall Street does not have any financial incentive to teach me, financial planner guy, how to teach you to take money out of the Wall Street machine. So go back to, for example, what I mentioned before, uncorrelated investment and asset classes. Well, here's an asset class for you. In many situations, real estate investments, as an example, real estate investments, there are certain sectors that when the whole world fell apart a few years back, certain sectors of the real estate world, they didn't blip. They just sort of stayed steady. They didn't jump way down. They kind of kept chugging along. Life insurance assets, depending on what type they are, but the asset class, the secure types, never go down when the markets crash. So that is an uncorrelated asset. Certain types of commodities will move up and down different to when the markets go up and down, and they have different benefits and they have different risks, of course. But the idea is that true diversification does not always include 100% Wall Street focused investments. Big surprise, right? So you've got to actually look for true diversification when we're having a conversation like this. Now, thank you, by the way, to Brian for sharing that with me. It was really insightful to see what this big name investment firm prepared when it came to an investment comparison and retirement suggestions. Sure enough, folks, there were Monte Carlo simulations in there. And if you don't know what a Monte Carlo simulation is, I can talk about it on another podcast, or you can send me a quick email with the subject line, Monte Carlo, ? And we could definitely have a conversation about it. I'm happy to help. But I want to jump into a listener question. It was actually more of a table guest question. Last week, just so you know, I had this question, it was very broad, that said, hey, what is the most important thing that my wife and I should consider thinking about as we plan for retirement? It's a tough one, but my suggestion to these folks was you've got to start with your desired lifestyle. How much lifestyle do you want to have someday? And then make sure that your income plan is going to get you there. Now, I went into a lot more detail on the last episode, so if you want to take a listen to that, go back and listen to the last one. Now, this is actually, I got to tell you, I'm going to rant a little bit, so please forgive me. Hey, it is my podcast, and I do own the microphone, right? But I was at a friend's wedding over the weekend, and these two topics came up again. You'll notice by the title of this podcast episode, the two titles were marijuana and Bitcoin. It came up again. It blows me away. That's all kinds of puns in there. It blows me away. People find out that I'm a financial planner, and then these folks at the table ask me, what do you think about real estate investing for the marijuana industry? Now, remember, I'm in California. It is currently now legal in California to have certain aspects of the marijuana business. I'm not going to go into detail about it because I really don't follow it like that. I have no desire to dip my toes into that particular pool. But it is legal in a variety of different ways. And I hear people ask these questions all the time. And that's exactly what these two folks said. These two folks are that's husband and wife, but the wife had asked the question. They're both long-term, 30-year real estate professionals. And she said, it's legal in California now, and I hear that people are making a killing with commercial real estate for pot growers. And so what's happening in a lot of places in Southern California and California in general is they're building these large, big commercial warehouse-sized buildings, and then they're putting pot farms inside and growing marijuana inside these pot farms in these big warehouse buildings, right? Seriously, are you kidding me, folks? Stop and think about this for a second, right? A business that is still tied to drug cartels is now legal, so that makes it a great investment? Really? Come on. Step back for a moment. Really? Drug cartels are still involved in the marijuana trade. It's still there. They haven't disappeared. And now all of a sudden, it's a fantastic investment. Well, if you have money to burn, pun intended, then investing in anything connected to the pot business is a good place as any to put it. Okay? As long as it's money to burn. It is extraordinarily speculative, highly risky. Okay? Investing in the pot business is so far on the other side of the risk spectrum, right? You have to remember, it is still federally illegal. We live here in Southern California. In California, the current Pennsylvania Avenue resident has no love affair with the left coast, right? So the administration in Washington, D.C. has no intent to actually do anything nice for the left coast. And if they want to step on this, they can come in and step on it. So please, invest at your own risk. Only use money that you can afford to lose. Pay attention to this one. Pay attention to what some lawyers I've talked to are doing. When they provide legal services for the pot business, okay, meaning they do company structures and contracts and agreements and just good legal work, I've talked to attorneys that say they keep any pot money separate from all other legal work they do. They separate it and they don't ever mix it because they know if the government comes knocking, that all of that money could be at risk if the federal government comes knocking. Okay? Now, if you want to invest in it, go for it, right? Just knock yourself out. Just remember, it's got to be money to burn. At the same dinner table, another couple asked me for my thoughts on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, right? So remember, you've heard about it on this show before, but she asked about Bitcoin. She didn't understand how it worked or how you buy things with it or anything like that, right? Now, again, it seemed to be, I think I was sitting at this wedding, I was sitting at the real estate table. So the person who asked about the Bitcoin was also a long-time real estate business investor and a real estate agent, right? So suffice it to say that she knows real estate really well, but clearly she does not know anything outside of the in the investment world related to Bitcoin. Was a total mystery to her, okay? So I've said this before, and I'm probably not going to talk about it again on my podcast, so I hope I'll just I'll rant about it and be done. First off, in my opinion, Bitcoin is not a currency. It is a highly speculative investment that some businesses, a relatively small section of any kind of business, are taking it as payment for goods and services. The only way that Bitcoin is a currency, or cryptocurrency in general, the only way that it is a currency is that there is a way to turn it back into dollar bills. If the ability to exchange Bitcoin for dollar bills goes away, then what? Right? Then it's worthless. If you can't turn that back into a legitimate currency, then it's worthless, right? So I could rant about this forever. Well, not forever, for a long time. So let me share just 3, maybe 4 final thoughts on the Bitcoin question. And this is something that I've thought of, for a long time now, since this whole hype started. If a terrorist attack happens, I'm going to get serious for a second. If a terrorist attack happens and people die, and the investigation turns up information about how the attack was being financed with cryptocurrency, the government response will be to attack crypto. The government's response will be, oh, no, we need to shut that down. We can't track the money, therefore we need to shut down this crypto thing. That's a really scary thing. But folks, I do believe it's possible, because that's actually something that is fairly well known, that cryptos and these cryptocurrencies are used for money laundering. Okay? So please don't fool yourself. If the governments of the world feel threatened by this, and if something bad happens that is connected to crypto, there is going to be major action. Now, the one that I think is even more likely is from the banking industry itself. One of the things I hear about cryptos is, it's outside the banking system. We don't have the banks involved. Well, good for you. When the world banks feel threatened by crypto, they will pressure governments to bring it under control, maybe bring it under their control. Remember, banks rule the world. They rule the world because they control the purse strings. And third and final point, I wish that I had purchased $100 worth of Bitcoin back when it was worth a half a cent. All right? I'm with you. I wish I'd bought it when it was a half a cent. That would have been a great speculative investment, right? I couldn't even get the word speculative out, right? That's the thing, folks. Okay, that's my take. No more on Bitcoin. No more on Mariana. Quick retirement income reminder. The Wall Street plan is the 4% rule. Comprehensive retirement income strategies include more than just investments and can yield up to 60% more. If you want your own retirement income analysis done, send me an email at Kraig@kraigstrom.com and say retirement income in your subject line, and we'll get together for a conversation. I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you are there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening.
Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.